Uh-oh, Eduardo Savrins. What are we talking about? Hey, welcome everybody to a live edition of the Sunset Session here in Manhattan Beach, California. I'm sitting here with Luke Anderson, co-founder of Cann. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Don't worry about the cameras. We can look over here, but if you want to say something or wink at the camera because I say something stupid, you can look at the camera. Whatever you want. So what is Cann? Like, tell me, what is, for people that don't know, like, what is Cann and what is the ethos of Cann?
Cann is the first microdose THC beverage.
And we say low dose.
We call it microdose because dispensaries say that low dose is 10 milligrams sometimes. And so we started off saying we were a low dose cannabis beverage, but people got confused. Is it a CBD drink? Is it a THC drink? And when I started talking about it as a microdose drink, people really got it. And I think some industry analytics platforms will say under 2.5 milligrams is microdose. And it's, for an experienced consumer, something that might be sub-perceptual, but for somebody like me who is newer to cannabis, it probably is the maximum amount that you can consume and still feel comfortable. So it's basically like
it's a mood enhancer. It's not a destabilizer.
No, it's the potency of beer or a glass of wine, but in a THC beverage.
Wow, and so it's a spot on alternative, basically.
It's an alcohol alternative. That's what we're going after.
Yeah, we got it. And so this is one of them right here. Blood orange cardamom. But do you have other flavors as well? What other? So is it all cans of beverage?
Yep, it's all. I mean, it's called Cann.
Cann.
It's got to be in a can.
I saw something you can like put into a cup of over ice too.
Yeah, we have something called the roadie. Which is we take the aluminum away and we also take the water away, and it's a liquid kind of a packet. And if you really like Cann but you want to take it on the go, then the roadie is a good answer for that.
So let's rewind for a second. I obviously had the chance to meet with you right when you were forming Cann, and it's really inspiring to see how far it's gone. And as a founder, I know it's like so much more work to do, but it's moving forward, right? Some big announcements recently, but you from math teacher to co-founder of a cannabis brand, talk me through the evolution of your professional career before starting Cann.
It's a long and winding road. I graduated from Stanford with a degree in architectural design. Thought I wanted to be an architect, and then quickly, after a few modeling studio classes, realized I wasn't that good at it. Was inspired by the Teach for America program. I grew up in a fairly low-income family, and I only ended up going to college because I had really good teachers. Neither of my parents graduated from four-year colleges, and so I thought, oh, this would be a fun, and challenging job. And it was not just that, but it was the most transformative career experience I've ever had. I think the hardest job in the entire world is being a public school teacher. It's the most demanding, hours-wise. You've got 10 hours where you're giving presentations to 30 students at a time. And
especially in an urban environment.
Yep. Yeah. I was in Revere, which is just 10 minutes north of Boston. And it's a 2-year program, but I had deferred a job offer at Bain & Company, which is a consulting firm. Total opposite, very corporate, very cushy job. And I
Teach for America and Bain is like yin and yang almost.
Yeah, kind of. Although they both are, I think, very, very buttoned up professional organizations that are focused on teaching people how to be like superstars in whatever walk of life they go into. And so at Bain, I was a consultant mostly with consumer packaged goods brands, helping think about what sells in grocery. I did some pet food projects, some food and beverage projects. And eventually, after a stint at HBS for business school, I had a tobacco client. And one of our projects was evaluating 5-year strategic plans, and the cannabis question kept popping up. I, at the time, I was also a very heavy alcohol drinker. Friday night, 12 vodka sodas. That was not out of the question.
Kettles too.
Whatever the cheap stuff. Not very classy. At Bain, Jake Bullock, who was the original mastermind behind the Cann brand and concept, he and I were very good friends. We planned 7 Coachella trips together. We knew we liked working together, solving crazy problems to keep 20 people entertained at a music festival year over year. And he always talked about a microdose THC beverage being the future of cannabis. He grew up in Colorado. He witnessed legalization. He saw everything unfold from his front yard. And I was, sitting there with 2 vodka sodas being like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Like, I already have my hands full with alcohol. Why would I want to drink my weed? I had a bad pot brownie experience in college.
Sure.
I don't want to, get back into that stuff. It's a mess. And he was like, no, you'll see. Like, it's social beverage. It's how we consume alcohol. It's how we consume caffeine. It's small doses of something that, you can still just chit chat and have a good time with. 5 years after he first brought that up, I turned 30, had an epic 30th birthday party, had a hangover that lasted until Tuesday and actually impacted how well I was able to do my job.
Yeah.
And it was that moment that I reached back out to him and said, hey, like, I think I kind of get what you're talking about, and it sounds smart. Like, I'm learning about how to, at the time I actually at Bain was working in this practice that helped big consumer goods companies behave more like startups and shrinking 18-month product launch cycles to 3 months, smaller budget, narrow geographic scope, small product focus. Like,
that's SKU. Hard for big companies, big CPG companies to launch products quickly and iterate as fast as tastes move, right?
Very.
Yeah.
And I was building that skill myself, and I said, hey Jake, I think I might know how to do startup-y stuff, and you've got a really good idea, and I'm starting to understand how I could be a customer of it. I've never been to a dispensary, but this would be the first product that I would go and buy. And so we put our heads together, we raised a little money and said, let's give it a real go.
That's awesome. It's a great founder story, and obviously, someone you enjoy working with, somebody that understands cannabis a little bit more, somebody that understands beverage and launching products, as well, and that kind of together. And obviously, you brought the talents out west. Or were you already out west?
No, I was living in London, and Jake was living in Colorado, and we said, where would you launch this? It's got to be Los Angeles. It's the customer we're going after is what we call a healthy hedonist. It's somebody who wants to go out and have as much fun as possible, but still wants to go to their 8 a.m. exercise class the next day.
That describes Californians.
West side of LA.
Very, very, very well. And you're based in Venice, right? Specifically, and when you're trying to launch a product that no one's ever done before, there's a lot of pushback, and there's a lot. It's challenging, especially when you're trying to get buyers to understand it, be able to talk to their customers about it. Was it harder to where's been the most challenging thing to actually launch? Now there's some other copycats, but this is really the first low dose beverage that came to market in California and is now available across the state. Right? What has been the biggest challenges of launching an innovative form factor, if you will, for consumption?
Oof, man. There's so many. Yeah. It's the cannabis industry is like a plane that is building itself while it's flying, and this is not the product that sells today. People are talking at the dispensary about $1 per milligram of THC. How high can this get me is what the bud tenders and the category buyers are saying. But most mainstream consumers, they think about things in how many of these can I have in one sitting and still have fun, the same way they do with something like alcohol. So we had to try and get something that was really unfamiliar into a place that wasn't interested in it, and then figure out how to get it to go. The skill that I learned at Bain, and I'm incredibly grateful for, and it saved us a lot of time and headache, is start small. So we picked MedMen as our launch partner in California. We picked 4 stores instead of launching with all 11. We said, let's see how it goes for a month. It did really well in brick and mortar retail. And so we reached out to Ease and Nick Fasano, who is one of my mentors, one of the first people I met in this industry, who saw value in what we were doing, and who introduced me.
He's how we met, yeah.
Yeah. He said, this maybe we could be your second customer. And it was a dream to be on the Ease platform, the biggest cannabis retailer in the country at the time, I believe.
It's a dream, but it's also like, oh my gosh, these guys could deliver to 80% of the population of California. We got to get our supply chain in order.
Exactly. And we really struggled with that. But we said, okay, how do we make it work with MedMen on the retail side, with ease on the delivery side, and not try to do too much? Because if you're trying to create something new and different, you have to focus. You have to make it very narrow, and you have to look at everything that's happening and react on a day-by-day basis. I still remember seeing the first sales data on ease in our first week. I just assumed like hundreds of people would buy it, and it would be like 8 people bought it today, 7 people bought it the next day. And we literally every day just tried something new, tried something crazy until it started going up. And by not being distracted by 20 different customers at once, we had the benefit of figuring it out.
So many brands, in any category in California made a mistake in 2018, especially trying to go really wide, right? Trying to beat as many shops as possible. And the operational cost of sustaining that, as well as the cost from a sales and account management standpoint, it makes it really challenging. Much better to find your real partners that you're gonna have a long-term, relationship with. At least that's the current theme in California cannabis sales. Who knows where it goes?
We learn it every quarter, it seems. We keep refining who we work with based on who believes in us. It's a lot easier to sell a lot of can with somebody who understands it and believes in it. And we spent a year in some cases trying to convince people at certain shops to pay attention to it enough to sell 36 packs in a month. And that's just not a good use of anybody's time.
So obviously I'm a executive search person for cannabis, and I've been impressed by your team. I mean, I know I had the chance to talk to Chelsea recently, and she's fantastic. How many people do you currently have working for Cann?
I think we have 20 full-time employees, and we work with a number of contractors as well. So there's about 30 people in the Cann fam.
So 30 people strong Cann fam. And, what do you look for when you're adding new people to your team? And what are you trying to do, like, internally to have a company that's representative and everything else, which is so important?
Man, we have made, I think, a series of adjustments into how we look for people. At first, it was basically just anyone willing to do something crazy and work 100 hours a week trying to make something out of nothing. The first year, we had 7 people who were just die hard, I will do anything for Cann, and we needed that in order to get to the place where we could hire an additional 10 people. Then at a certain point, it became clear that we needed to find people who were specialized in something. And it's either, razor sharp operationally, razor sharp strategically, or an amazing seller. Those are the 3 capabilities that we have been building and growing. Our creative side, it's still just me and Jake and one other person internally working on all of that together. And so we haven't really scaled that up quite a bit. Actually, no, 2 other people now. But it is equal parts skill and culture, and what each company looks for when it comes to culture is very different. For us, it's a desire to change the way people drink. And if you are very, very motivated to change the future of drinking or write the history books in that regard, then you can be successful even if you don't necessarily have the skills. We've had some people really ramp up very quickly just on enthusiasm and passion and a desire to learn alone.
I know it's, I totally see the social consumption similar to a beer or wine, and I love that. It's very clear, but it also seems like it's a perfect mixer. So, like, what are your thoughts on? Is that a thing?
It's funny, we poke fun at alcohol a lot in our marketing because 80% of adults want to drink less alcohol in some way.
Sure.
And so it's a relatable, like hating on alcohol is a relatable thing. But we're not anti-alcohol. We just think that everyone should probably drink 20 to 50% less and the world would be a better place. And individually, I've gone through that experience myself. I drink half as much as I used to, and I'm a lot happier. So we don't, we can't officially recommend that somebody mix our product with alcohol, but people do it all the time, and people think it's great. That's great.
But obviously one of the things about consuming in the parlance of our times is like a lot of times beverages are like high in sugar and things like that, but you've been purposely thoughtful about what people are consuming, putting in their bodies, even in a beverage form. And it's not like there's 100 grams of sugar in one of these.
No, but my background in analyzing what was successful in grocery, I think, informed a lot some of our product values. So I noticed that there were, I think, there was a moment 5 years ago, there were a lot of 0-calorie drinks and a lot of 100-calorie drinks, the sodas or the seltzers. And then you started seeing there was a little bit of creeping in both directions. Spindrift became wildly popular at the 5 to 15 calorie range. And then, you know, even the alcoholic side of things, some hard seltzers have dropped to 90 to 80. And I always thought there was something in the middle here, this like 30 to 50 calorie range that wasn't executed super well. Stevia, fake sweeteners, sometimes combining stevia and sugar, or using a little bit of real sugar and some sugar substitute together. It just doesn't really feel natural. It doesn't taste great.
It tastes great, no.
And people will drink those things and say, this is good, like I'm being healthier. We wanted to make something that, even without the cannabis at all, was the most delicious tasting 30-calorie drink you could find. And it's using less than 10 grams of sugar from agave nectar, which, if you've ever had agave, it's like a warm, sweet syrup. And people don't use it that much in beverage, but it's an amazing taste profile modifier.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's margarita or... Yeah. So three more questions here. You're being very generous with your time. Thank you. The first question is multi-state expansion. Cann is currently starting in California, sold and available in Nevada, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and now the big announcement recently, Illinois, through Green Thumb Industries, which seems to be the GTI, which is like the darling of the MSOs from like at least a public market standpoint. Everyone loves GTI, right? So great win, nice job. What about that partnership is exciting, because you were obviously already on this multi-state expansion track, and you know, GTI would seem to indicate they could be a partner for lots of different states.
Yeah, we thought we could do it alone, I think, initially, and we opened up Nevada last year, and it was really hard and it was really costly. And we even had the benefit of working with someone who had a pre-existing beverage manufacturing facility. But if you look at every other state, there are no canning lines, and they're starting to pop up, but it's not something we're willing to wait around for. Ben Kovler is a brilliant, he's a genius, and I think he has a brand thesis. He believes that the value in cannabis will flow to brands at the end of the day. And if you look at any other industry, if you look at any other consumer good, there are always brands that have built a story and are so authentic and so interesting that people will pay twice as much for that branded product than the Kirkland Signature, you know, private label version from Costco, even though the stuff inside might be the same. And I think that in cannabis, it's rare for people to think about brands in that way at this stage of the industry's development. Everyone's fighting over, like, how much space do we have for flower growth, and how do we do an eighth at this dollar amount? And Ben saw the forest for the trees and said, I think this is something that can, you know, really expand the industry and also, I think, earn consumer loyalty.
So it's fantastic.
Oh, and they are building and, you know, building manufacturing facilities and distributing the product for us. And they have a lot more resources than we do. And frankly, they're better at just really efficiently making and distributing cannabis products.
That's what they do. And obviously manufacturing is very capital intensive. And you have the magic formula, and it's a winning combination, right? What about influencer marketing? I mean, obviously that's a hot thing for any CPG brand in any industry. It's been really challenging in cannabis because influencers risk often being kicked off social media platforms and things like that. But you've had some phenomenal sort of endorsements, and obviously partially because the product must connect with them, right? But Gwyneth, I mean, what a win! So for how do you connect with influencers? Like, how do you pull that off?
Gwyneth was my babysitter when I was 2 years old, which is a super weird thing, but and that was not how I was connected to her. But you know, the answer there is people love the product, and when they fall in love with the product, then they want to be a part of the company. We have 15 celebrities that are investors in Cann at this point, and that number keeps growing, and they are all just like, I like this and I believe in it. We've never in our company's history paid for a post. And that is something that's really, really rare for a brand. And there were some rumors going around. Somebody told me, oh, I heard Cann spent $4 million on an Instagram post. And I'm just like,
you gotta block them out. Block out all the haters.
That's totally not true. The posting that's been done has been organic. People have said, I really like it, and I'm just gonna, share it. But Gwyneth was really important for us because she was one of the first to believe in it and be brave enough to go public with it. Gwyneth and Ruby Rose, actually, who have the same management company, they both said, you know what? I don't care if this is something that is stigmatized. I am willing to put my name on the line and say, cannabis is not weird. THC-infused products are, at this approachable dosage, very safe. Why are we?
It's definitely not weird in California.
Yeah,
that's for sure. And I think there's been a lot of, retail sales alone would say a lot of consumers have looked to cannabis during the last year and the craziness that's happened. It's.
But alcohol in Kansas, you don't have to put a child lock on a beer. Like, somebody can get a fake ID and pick up a beer from the grocery store in the middle of the country. And this product, which is objectively better for you than a beer, is so much harder to buy. And these celebrities that have backed us and are sharing our story on our behalf, because they speak to a lot more people than we do, they're comfortable saying that. Drinking a can, it's not going to hurt anybody.
No, it's definitely not. You might you have a few of them. You might end up taking a nice nap.
Exactly.
Right. Last thing to talk about, I think, is just an important topic. It's 2021. Cannabis seems to be becoming mainstream. I've seen on my end, more and more people are looking at cannabis as a potential career option because it's a growth industry and it's essential, right? But it's hard to get the concept right of a profitable yet diverse and inclusive industry, and there's not enough founders of color. There's not enough of those entrepreneurial success stories, and to make this industry actually work, you have to bring all communities into the legal market, and there has to be representation. I know it's something that we've chatted about before, but what are your thoughts? Like how does Cann contribute, and what's the responsibility of any entrepreneur in this industry to be part of that solution?
Yeah, it's funny. Everyone is trying to figure out how to make their cannabis brand or company profitable. And because of that stress, a lot of people are making mistakes about recruitment and hiring. I think at a bare minimum, for every resume from a white person that you read, you should read at least one resume from a person of color, given where this industry comes from. And I think that's something that we are still working to figure out how to do, but every single month, and we're very, very lucky to have another one of my mentors in the industry, actually a few of them, Mary Pryor, Arlene Pitterson, and Cassia Graham, and Kendra at Cann Inclusive. If you're not following Cann Inclusive on Instagram, it's an amazing place to learn about and understand what a cannabis company should be doing from a diversity and inclusion perspective. And we've worked with them very closely over the last year and a half. Best advice I could give a cannabis entrepreneur out there is partner with them, pay them. There's so many people that are expecting people of color to do free diversity and inclusion coaching. That is absolutely not the right thing to do. So pay people of color for their time if they're helping, and then recruit from a more diverse talent pool. And while you're doing it, also be mindful about redistributing wealth to Black and brown entrepreneurs. Even if we're not making a profit, we're going to donate a bunch of money to people who are not able to have access to the same funding that me and Jake were, because, I'll say it, we're two white guys, and that is a leg up.
As it relates to fundraising, absolutely. I appreciate that answer. And so, fast forward to a world, it's 2040. Did you see people drinking Cann in Paris? Like, where's Cann going?
Grocery stores, bars, restaurants. I think the industry will eventually wake up one day and split by potency. So you've got beer and wine licenses, you have liquor licenses. You've got over-the-counter medication, you have, prescription strength. I think the industry originally was like THC is over here and CBD is over here. No, CBD is the absence of THC. It's not like diet weed. And the more safe, approachable cannabis products, like a 2 milligram drink, I think that they should be more broadly accessible. So all over the world, and also in the same places that you can buy beer and wine.
I'd love to see that world. But thank you again for coming in. And everyone have a great day out there. Live stream off.